Let's go.
Alec, you ain't completely scored your film yet.
That's not how we start.
It's good.
I've still got about half an hour left to go through.
Oh, bloody hell.
Oh, the second watch, you mean?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Does someone want to?
Alec, why did you pick this film?
It's you that starts, yeah.
I'm glad you asked. um. I meant to kind of do this last week, but I ended up with Rob falling asleep and not doing it for me, so I didn't do it. But yeah, I picked this film. I wasn't sure what to pick next. I just bit after Hope and all that. I kind of just wanted a comedy. I was just really crying out for a comedy, and I had a couple that I wanted to do. I wanted to do Young Frankenstein. Since Simon picked Willy Wonka. Because I just had a bit of a Gene Wilder kind of thing, and then that ended up getting pushed back. And then my parents were talking to me about Muppet Treasure Island, and I was like, ah man, Muppet Treasure Island was probably like the first film that ever like, where me and my dad actually ever like laughed at the same thing at the same time, kind of thing. So I was thinking about doing that. Um, and then yeah, it kind of just came to me. There was sort of like this small film that I hadn't really, it had been like a big part of my childhood, but I hadn't realized how much of a part of my childhood it had been. Um, and yeah, I think because there was like yeah, I think it just kind of like when it popped into my head, it just kind of like seemed right because like yeah, a couple of well about a month ago now, we had a call where I wasn't very fair to somebody, and I thought, well, that somebody happens to be in this film, and I was sort of like, wow, that's like a film that I never actually like put her being in because like she's so in character that like I never actually like linked them as being there, and I was like, oh my god, actually, yeah, that is Meryl Streep, and Meryl Streep so in character in this film that I didn't even like think of her as being in it. So it just kind of seemed right to me because I didn't want to sorry, this is uncomfortable for me to say, but like I didn't want to put people off of picking her just because of that call we had a couple of months ago. So yeah, this is me trying to break the ice on that one, and I thought it would be good to pick one where I actually really really like the film and I really appreciate her in the film, and um yeah, I thought this might be a nice way of just kind of like putting a bit of a line like under that. Um, but yeah, just generally like love this one anyway. I know Jim Carrey's a bit of a Marmite kind of actor, but I think he's doing like really really cool stuff in this. Um, I never ended up like finishing the books or anything. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those ones where like kind of like it's such a big part of your childhood, and then you kind of like just don't you don't realize how much of an effect it's had on you. But then like just certain like, little references sort of come up, and I remember um I remember kind of like quoting Jim Carrey a lot, like as a teenager. I remember starting a blog called a series of mildly unfortunate events and how I'll complain about them at great length. Um, Eb often likens me to Meryl Streep's character because like I'm so paranoid about home safety and like just the potential obscure random injuries you the person who's like afraid of the doorknob shattering into a million pieces and one of them hitting your eye. I'm
And
desperately
bad grammar.
huh?
And bad grammar.
And also bad grammar. Um, but she was just like, God, you're so Meryl Streep in this film, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So, um, yeah, sorry, it's not gone doesn't seem to have gone down so well. But yeah, that's why I picked it really.
I thought it'd gone down quite well, to be fair.
Oh well, maybe you should consult your own scores.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the outlier, but like, but when Meryl Streep's character first comes into it, because you said before about likening yourself to her character in this. When she was doing the stuff about the bad grammar, I was like, surely it's not just that. And then she started panicking about this random things, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the other bit. All right.
Also, I would like to point out she is right at the end. Like the fridge does nearly squash and flat. The doorknob does, nearly shatter into a billion pieces and hit you in the eye. The stove does set the set on fire and try and kill him. Like she is correct. So
But no,
just saying.
I think the thing for me was like, I mean, just as generally as a film, like it didn't really land too much for me. But there were bits where I was going like, oh, I can see how this was a big film for you during your childhood. Like even when Jim Carrey's character says "surprise," I was like, oh, I remember Alex saying that all the time. So yeah, I see how it influenced your vocabulary.
I didn't even remember that. Did I used to do that?
Yeah, you used to do it all the time.
Oh wow!
I thought it was just like a quirk of yours. I didn't realise it was from something.
This thing's just uncovering emotional damage I never realised I had. I remember doing like the whole thing of like, yes, dinner. It's the French term for the evening meal. Like, I just thought that was so funny, and I was just like, why do people think I'm a dickhead? I was like, oh, probably that.
No, there's loads. Oh, that was the big one that came out to me because it was the first thing. But yeah, no, there was a couple of things, or like the way that he would say things. I was kind of going, oh, that's where he got it.
Oh no. Yeah, no one wants to say there's a lot of Count Olaf in him.
But this is the thing. Like watching it was like, I don't know. It was an interesting thing because on the one hand, I was going, oh, that's where Alec got that from. So I was kind of seeing how you would have loved it growing up and that kind of thing. But then it's like I was saying to you earlier, there were some scenes like the train tracks scene, and I was like, I can feel Alec like burning a hole in the back of my head as I'm watching this. Like, I was like, this isn't an Alec film.
I should just say with half an hour left to go, I've got 46.5 positives and I've got 18 negatives. So I was like, this is
80.
18.
Oh right.
But 18 is still a lot.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one to look at as somebody who's known you for quite a long time now. Because yeah, I can definitely see how you would have like taken a lot from it as a kid. But yeah, generally it didn't really land too much for me. I think the biggest problem I had was just the narration. Because there was a lot of like, oh, this is who this character is, and this is what this character's good at, and this is now what they've done. And I was kind of going like, I would have liked to have discovered those things on my own without being told them. And I always think like it's one of those weird things with these kind of adaptations, because I think this is an example where they've tried to preserve a lot of the text through that narration. I mean, I haven't read it, to be fair, so I am making an assumption. But yeah, it feels like they're trying to preserve the text, and I'm kind of like, well, the text already exists. Like, I mean, this is like a film is an opportunity to kind of like put it into a new kind of medium kind of thing, and it kind of I felt like the narration held it back on that front. So yeah, it was kind of when it got to the end and they were talking about like how their three personalities came together to make a sanctuary where they needed it kind of thing. I was like, well, that's really sweet, but like I said, it would have been nice to sort of feel that firsthand rather than been told it.
It's the Shawshank thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, while I remember, I should say that Eb also says that this film reminds her of you, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's The Happiest Elf.
The Happiest Elf?
She says you're the happiest elf's laugh reminds her of you all the time.
Oh, yeah, I sort of see it. Yeah. Do you know what though? That intro, that was another point where I was going like, "Is this an Alec Pitt?" When they were like, "This is not the film you were watching." I was like, "How is that not irritated?"
They got in early. I think that's the thing though. Like, I quite appreciated the narration at the time because I think it was because I read like the first couple of books, but like the books are about like that. They're about that thick, and I was just my mum got pissed off buying them for me because she'd buy them, and then I'd be back about 20 minutes later, and I'd go, yeah, done it, and she's like, what do you mean, you fuck's sake? Well, I will need the next one. But yeah, they had like they had like lovely little bits in there where like they'd use a word and then they'd have the narrator come in and say, which here means it's this, and it was just like a really nice way of just kind of like expanding kids' vocabulary and stuff. So I can see why it's definitely I can see why it'd be frustrating to watch as an adult, but like it is kind of it is part of the book where like it is for kids and stuff, and I think that is evident in like how I think guardianship laws work. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I get your point. This definitely fair. Somebody else.
Yeah, I like that you guys mentioned Shawshank Redemption because it kind of reminded me of that, the narration.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of humor that you get from that, even if it is very on the nose and it is kind of like, yeah, there's over explaining stuff. But obviously, bear in mind it's kind of like a film for all audiences, all ages kind of thing. It's got obviously the books or kids' books, and they kind of
That on the poster. They're gonna say this reminds Ben of the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, that's a good pull me in kind of moment. But it has those bits in it that kind of like, yeah, this is. I always appreciate when films kind of like call back to the book, so it's more forgiving for me, even if it is kind of like, yeah, they don't really need to say this and that, but it is kind of like you kind of experiencing it. The Jude Law's narrator, Lemony Snicket, is kind of you kind of like experiencing it with him as well as just kind of like this unbelievable story that has so much like quirkiness to it. It needs a bit of a narrator to kind of give it a bit of levity to a degree. Because I think that's why this film's always been on my radar, because it's always been something of my kind of like flavor, kind of my type. Because it's kind of like an amalgamation of Tim Burton and Roald Dahl with a little bit of Coen Brothers as well. It's just all those things kind of rolled into one. And that's why I love the original story so much, because it is just so bizarre and bonkers. But you have to look at it through a kid's lens of it. So you have to experience it as like, this is the sort of thing I loved reading when I was little. Was I just loved every single Roald Dahl story there was, and I just remember reading them all when I was little, and just kind of like being absorbed in these over-the-top, silly but strange fantasy worlds. And that's why I was so into Tim Burton, because it's so kind of strange, quirky, and like it wasn't the usual. It was the unusual. It was the strange and unpredictable. And that's the thing that I kind of got through it. And it's like, yeah, Jim Carrey's the perfect vessel to kind of like anchor it all together. Like Count Olaf's a fantastic character on his own, but Jim Carrey kind of like made it his own. Even if he kind of, you could argue that, yeah, he's kind of he's doing his Jim Carrey stick. He's doing what you expect Jim Carrey to do. But it just fits well with Count Olaf's kind of like silly villainy and over the top camp cartoon Looney Tunes mustache twirling kind of like, yeah, he is like, what's his face from the Wacky Races. He's just like, he is a, you just love to hate him. And
What's his face from the Wacky Races?
Yeah. It's great. It's just like, he's just a fantastic villain. And that's why you kind of like you just sympathise with the kids in it because you just want them the best for them, and you just want, but you also kind of are just enthralled about what misadventures they're going to go through next, and that was so good about the books. And yeah, and but I do think like the first half of this film is like fantastic, brilliant. It just kind of like, I don't know whether it was because they wasn't sure they were going to make a sequel, or they were kind of like a bit on the fence about it. It kind of loses its steam because it's obviously they miss out two great story arcs, and that whether or not they'll stay saving them for the sequel or not makes this film kind of like stilted a bit. It kind of like gets to a point, and then they kind of like, yeah, we're going to resolve it kind of quickly. That's just my own personal nitpick because of how much I love the book, and the books, I should say, and the miniseries itself. I know Alec will hate me for saying this, but the miniseries was great because it had the full arc of the story. It completed the whole story so well, and you got like the whole kind of like resolution with the parents. You got the resolution with Lemony Snicket himself. Olaf actually kind of got more of like a role to play at the end. He wasn't really kind of written off real quickly. So that was my nitpick, because the same reason why me and Emmanuel just love like the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books and the original Swedish adaptations are just so good, because they kind of like, they're going to tell Elizabeth Slander's arc from start to finish. There's no cutbacks. There's nothing they're going to miss out. It's just they're going to just kind of like cover everything they can do, and sort of, and that's the trouble, is that if only this film had like a guarantee, like they did the 3 films back to back, and it would just been a great adaptation. It's just they kind of were like, it wasn't a success, so they kind of just like, yeah, let's not do any more. And it's a real shame because like the production design's so good, but costume makeup is great, and it's just the vibe of it is just so wonderful. And Barry Sonnenfeld was the producer. He did like Men in Black and Adam's Family, so you can see why I love it, because it's just that it's just all the ingredients are there, and it's just that. So okay, he can get to do the film, so he's going to produce the series and just kind of like continue on where the film's left off. So in a way, it's a shame, but at least it was concluded. I just would have loved like they did the original 3 films for this, so the story would have been kind of like, yeah, resolved a bit, because it's still fine, but it's just like not quite for me how they've ended up.
Is the miniseries the one with Neil Patrick Harris?
Yes, yeah,
Is
he does this. He does a great job. He's just no Jim Carrey, but he does a fine Olaf.
I
I
can't
should have
imagine
known
him
that
in
you
that role.
started with the miniseries. You know what? I've seen it and I can't either.
I think that's the trouble. Like, Jim Carrey is so like iconic. He's like the Grinch. You can't imagine the Grinch being played by anyone else. It's just Olaf is just. That's Jim Carrey. He's just, as much as how good Patrick Harris is. It's just like he's just doing a Carrey impression. So that's the flaw with the series, is that he's just trying to emulate something that was done so well.
Oh,
Yeah,
You
but
wound,
yeah.
you really wounded me here. You cut me deep.
But yeah, it's just Olaf is such a great creation. He's just a wonderful character. It's just like you're appalled by him, you're moved by him. It's just all those things all rolled into one. You hate him as well, but you just kind of like, yeah, he's just a joke. But it's hilarious. Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
You can just tell they all had fun making it. Like,
Hmm.
apparently, Emily Browning thought she was going to get fired because like she couldn't stop laughing at Jim Carrey.
I'd have that problem too.
I did read actually. So that first encounter when he's like, "Oh, give me that line again." Apparently, that wasn't in the script. That was like a genuine "give me that line again."
Oh, and it worked. So fair enough.
Amazing.
to be honest, yeah, it really does work with the character.
Yeah.
Like, especially how he came in. You kind of just expect, or not expect, you're not surprised when he says it. You're like, oh, okay, yeah. I guess you are strange anyway, so.
But I love that whole like wannabe actor thing where like he's sort of like seeing who it is, and then he like pulls the thing back in, and then you hear him running upstairs. He's like, "Intrude!" And it's like, yeah, It's just I don't know. I think it's just so funny just how he like loves this idea of him being an actor, and it's just kind of like you have absolutely no idea how shit you are at this.
That was another thing I thought actually. It was the way that he enunciates things like you just did. When I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, that's why he found Taste of London so funny.
Yeah. In terms of opening statements, yeah, I thought it was. I've seen it before in the past. I can't remember when I first saw this film or how many years ago. I feel like it wasn't that long ago. Like, I don't think I was a kid. When did this come out again?
2004, I think.
I wonder if I saw it in my 20s. Something. Anyway, sorry, these are my trains of thought. I'm tired. um, yeah, I thought it was amazingly done film. Everything about it. Costume design lady was great. Forgot her name. What's her name again? Colleen. Atwood.
Thank you.
Yeah. It won an Oscar for that.
Nice. I can't get my internet to work, but yeah, that's great. Thanks, man. Yeah, because obviously she's done a lot of great work herself.
She's very Tim Burton.
Did you hear that?
Like she did the costumes in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
No, did she?
Yeah, that makes a
She
ton
won
of
an
sense.
Oscar for that as well.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, she's won quite a few awards for.
Was it a Tim Burton sense?
What?
Oh, that was for Ben, really. That's okay.
But yeah, I thought it was really well done. I didn't actually really notice the narration, but I don't know if it's because I've seen it before or I just expected it because of knowing that it came from this book. And for me, that even though I haven't really properly read the book, Camilla has the first one anyway. I expected a certain style, so I feel like maybe if you've read the book, kind of like how Ben was saying, this style of kind of doing the film just made sense. And also, I feel like it was a very good way to do it. I guess, like you guys have said, for the younger audience, because it really helps get the point home of what they're going through, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. They don't have to, they don't really have to guess or get it wrong or assume. They're carried along and they're actually understanding what's going on. And I think that can help, especially in a film with a lot of, it's not a nice, like nice subjects. Someone's a step parent's trying to kill them, and abusive, and all sorts of stuff is going on, and it's just like it would. I think it can help the younger audience engage more, as well as how they're doing it and sprinkling in a little bit of comedy here and there. I think it really does help that. But yeah, because I guess I just expected that. It didn't throw me off or anything. I didn't really notice it. It was just part of it. He was just another character. Just obviously, like telling this story, and we're here for the ride. And yeah, it was cool to also see it again and see where those actors are now. I think I realized that's the first thing I saw. I think I saw Emily Browning in. And looking back, I was just like, oh, she's been in a lot since then. Oh, nice on her.
Yeah, same. This was the first one I saw, and obviously Sucker Punch after that, and then a few years later, Legend, and then American Gods, and countless other things as well. So she's done some good stuff over this. Maybe not all of it's good, but yeah, so she's had a very eclectic career.
Yeah, I think she's definitely had a good career. The the brother, he's been in much smaller things. I don't think I've really watched any of the stuff he's been in. Not properly anyway. And
You can
someone from
definitely.
the acting troupe, a lady from the acting troupe. Which film did you say they were in? Was it?
Jennifer Coolidge.
I don't remember
What was
names.
that?
Is that Jennifer Coolidge?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge is in there. She was on at the stage with the two women who got introduced the show. She was in it.
Yeah, she's the one that's
Oh.
kind of going like,
Yeah, and which film
Yeah.
is she in or from or well known
Oh.
for?
I mean, I was quoting Sex and the City
That was
when
it.
she throws this party and like she's had like yelling about something next to an open window in a skyscraper and falls out the window and dies, and it's weird. Even in the context of Sex and the City, and I was also quoting Legally Blonde.
Yes.
Yeah, she's iconic in that.
And she's also very good in Cinderella Story as well.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
She was
Oh,
on a
is that
TV
why?
show as well.
White
With Kat
Lotus.
Dennings.
White Lotus.
is that
Mm.
why
Oh,
the
she's
Cinderella
been in,
story
she's
played
been in a
straight
lot of
after?
things actually.
Ooh. There were a lot of cool actors in this in general. Like it was funny seeing as not Poe, the other cop,
Cedric the Entertainer.
Cedric the
The black
Entertainer.
guy. I said to Rob I recognised him from somewhere, but I didn't know from where.
Oh, he's in a lot of stuff, but
Barbershop.
Barbershop. Yeah, he's
That's the first one.
yeah, he's in a lot of stuff besides Barbershop, but he's in a lot of I think like black TV shows as well. I feel like I saw him a lot growing up. But yeah, Cedric.
Rachel, you know who that was, right?
The black guy.
Yeah, that's Cedric the Entertainer.
No, you didn't know. I recognised his face, but I couldn't put a name to it.
Yeah. We've spoken. Well, you've spoken to me about him.
What's his name?
It's Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
But yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot he's in this. And then Meryl Streep. I think at the time when I watched it initially, I don't think I realized how much of a legend Meryl Streep was, or just like how well known, regarded she is.
Not dead yet.
Sorry, I used the wrong tense. It's not on purpose. But yeah, how well regarded she is. Yeah, I didn't realize that until obviously much later. Because yeah, I only really knew Jim Carrey, and Cedric the Entertainer at the time. But yeah, it was. I thought it was really nice. I did have a hard time. Not hard time. I hate I hate Count Olaf. He does his character perfectly. I just obviously I think, especially being older, I didn't remember properly enjoying it probably when I saw it, but even now, probably even more so, I really hate seeing like what he does to the kids and what he's trying to do to the kids. It's just like the whole time I'm just like I could I'm like the way the brother feels every time he sees Count Olaf. That's how I'm feeling watching his film. It's just like, no, he is this. I'm just like, this freaking guy. He needs to fall off a cliff somewhere. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I don't think I'd want to change anything about it. It's one of the few films. Like maybe if I read the books properly, I might think otherwise. As a standalone film, I really liked it. Not really knowing much going in.
There is some unfortunate CGI in it, though. We have
Yes, there is. There really is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which one?
I read
Oh, the fish.
I read the book when I was younger. I think I read the first red one, and I think the second one was green. But I could be wrong. I remember reading them when I was little, but I never watched the film when I was younger. So it was interesting when I saw that Alec had picked it again, or picked it. Sorry, because I hadn't seen it before. And I think if I'd seen it as a child or a teenager, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did. Obviously, watching it now. I said to Rob, it's kind of like the perfect film if you're trying to kind of like perhaps be introduced to like horror or like gothic, like that kind of as a teenager. It kind of feels like a nice entryway into a genre, I think. So I think at that age it feels kind of like appropriate, and it felt like it was done in a really good way. I think I read online around difference between Olaf in the series and the film is obviously Jim Carrey plays it with a bit more comedy maybe than sinister nature that's kind of depicted in the series. I haven't watched the series, so I don't know if that's true. But I do think for me, I don't mind Jim Carrey, but I feel like I just see Jim Carrey in every single film. It's just him, and he's very like himself in every film, and that kind of took away it for me a bit of the enjoyment for me, because I felt like, well, this could be the same Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty. I just kind of felt a bit like I'd seen him before, and it wasn't really, you know, doing anything in a way that maybe where Pat wrote about Johnny Depp, maybe Johnny Depp would have been slightly different, but I don't know. But maybe in terms of some of the films I've seen Johnny Depp in, actually maybe he would have been too similar. But yeah, Jim Carrey kind of took it away for me. I thought the Emily Browning was great. I thought she was really strong. Meryl Streep, again, really fantastic. Struggled with the boy. I think Rob and I looked at each other a couple of times with the boy, because it felt very like theatre school posh kid acting. He was kind of in his GCSE drama class, like didn't quite hit the spot with the younger boy. And some of the, I can see what they were trying to do with Sunny and her lines with the sounds and the subtitles. Sometimes I got a bit like, oh, okay. Production though, I thought was really, really strong. Like the costumes, the makeup, I thought was brilliant. The CGI bit that really annoyed me was, I don't know if it's the same for you, Alec, was the house, Josephine's house. There was a moment where it dropped behind them, and it was just like, oh, it's very obvious. Like for that 5 seconds, it was just very obvious that they were kind of in a set, and it didn't look right, and it really jarred me that moment. But as a as a story. Say it again, sorry, Alec.
You got to talk about Sunny's face sometimes. Like there's a bit where Klaus chucked something for her to catch, and she like catches it in her mouth, and she's like, and I was just like, me and Ned both went, oh no,
yeah, that's
no.
It was a bit of her with the snake. I was like, man, this is the most like uncanny valley I've ever felt.
Yeah, really has.
I felt like, I think for story, like it let it down slightly, because they made this whole big thing about obviously her being her being a biter, what's her face being a inventor, and the other one reading. But I don't really feel like, I maybe would have liked more about that. I know I touched on it a tiny bit, but I didn't really feel like they necessarily carried through, considering they spent quite a long time talking about it at the beginning. And then I was saying to Rob, I didn't still feel like I fully understood the secret society part at the end. That kind of felt a bit more rushed through, and it was a bit like, well, that feels really important because they've got this family they didn't know about. And I know secret society were like almost like volunteering around fires, I think was one of my understanding, but I didn't think it was really as developed as it could have been, which is why I didn't score it as high for story there. But I liked, I guess, the emphasis on how people will ignore children, and obviously the lack of respect that children get, and also how what's the word, like ignorant or absent-minded adults can be. I kind of liked that aspect to it. So it was good, but yeah, it just kind of stayed at kind of like good, okay for me for those kind of reasons. But it was nice to see the of a book that I knew I really enjoyed as a kid. But I think if I'd watched it as a kid, I would have obviously enjoyed it. A lot more, I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's very fair. It's like some of those plot resolves kind of like, yeah, if they could do the sequel, it could have like been kind of like done properly in that. So it was kind of like, yeah, they shouldn't have really touched on them. If they knew they weren't going to do a sequel, they could have just not mentioned that part. and cut that out of the book,
Yeah,
and then
I think
got
so.
the adaptation, and it worked just fine as a film.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
it's
think where the
funny.
narrator was so like almost over involved, I don't know if that then took away from that kind of part of the story being developed in a way. I don't know. Yeah, maybe they took Jude Law out, they would have had more minutes to fit in actual development around that part. I like Rob. I didn't think that was necessarily necessary for me to hear what was happening. I just think I could have got it without that. But then, the end bit didn't quite.
Yeah, I think
Felt a
it's
bit
sort of
rushed, I
like
guess.
it's a little bit like Shawshank, where it's kind of like just know when to stop, because I think it's actually like quite. I think it's quite effective, like at the beginning, where it's sort of going like, I don't know if you really want to watch this one, but like we can carry on if you like, and then just kind of like I think it's good for setting you up like very very quickly with going like you're gonna be on these kids like side, really, like this is gonna be very you're gonna be very sympathetic toward these kids, and it's it is a kids movie, so like having that narration just be very plain. But like I don't want to say like kids movies are like dumbed down, but like it's just like it's just a very quick way of getting you on side. And then like just when it gets to the end, it's just like, and this is how the Baudelaire children became the Baudelaire orphans. I did try to warn you. It's not too late to go and see another movie about a happy little elf. And it's like I think there's like a confidence there of just kind of going like, I know this isn't pleasant, but like I did kind of set you up for it before the unpleasant bit, and now that's happened. We're trusting that you're gonna like you're more interested in this. And so I think that's like a nice sort of bit in there. But then you get to like later where they're going like, well, they hope their next Guardian will be better than the last, but the criteria for that was not trying to kill them with a train. And I was like, I actually just saw that
Yeah,
scene.
it could have stopped early. It didn't need to continue throughout.
Yeah.
I love that, but I think in a way I loved it because it's kind of like that's what I was thinking. Into like if I was to say that to someone else, or if I was watching it by myself, and then he said my thoughts out loud, kind of thing. So
So,
it just made me laugh, kind of thing. It's just like,
so your 3 points for enjoyment was you sitting there going, my inner monologue is Jude Law.
maybe that's why I didn't really notice it too much, because it was basically just saying my thoughts.
Has Jude Law been in Only Murders in the Building?
No.
Do you know what though? That bit where he's like, "Can I have that line again?" That's been in Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, there's two actresses that have been in it. To be fair, so there's a few people in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the bit that also did really annoy me about the film was the end with the sun, and the sun just like appearing just at the right time for him to burn the marriage certificate. I was like, oh come on, like I think that really did lose me at the end.
Yeah, that's a very kind of like a classic
very much.
cartoon thing to happen.
Yeah, it really frustrated me.
That's definitely. I think this as well. Like there's the thing in the bit when they're trapped in the car. I was like, okay, how do they get out of this again? And then she's like, there's always something, and she pulls up like the leather strap out of like the couch, and I was like, okay, and she pulls a spring out of like the cotton. I was like, yeah, all right. And then there's the little elf and bites the head off, and it makes it into a little grappling hook, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Fair enough. That's not something you'd necessarily think of, and you've made them useful. That was all stuff that was going to be in the car, and you've made it useful. And then when it's Aunt Josephine's, when it's like there's an anchor in the bookcase, and I was like, "Fucking is there? Oh, I bet it's on the." Nice, cool, yeah, sure. And then it's like, and also a fire extinguisher has just landed next to you, and I was like, "Of course it fucking did, yeah." And then when it's like the sunlight comes in through the door, and I'm like, "Fucking bollocks!"
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad we all agree on that part because.
But that was the thing though, because when they were saying about like how sort of inventive she is and like how she's so good at like getting herself out of trouble, I was like, she has had some help.
Convenient prop.
She's had some help
Yeah.
from the script writer. Just happened to drop in everything you needed, but once I've given you everything you needed, you're amazing.
I feel
I'll
like
jump
it's.
in and oh, sorry. You gonna say
Oh no,
something?
go.
Oh, okay. I'll quickly give my opening statement. I had seen this before years ago. I can't remember when. I had never read the books. I didn't even know there were books until recently. But yeah, it visually is so beautiful, and yeah, set design and costume and makeup. It was just like incredible. And yeah, I'll start with the good things because there are bad things, but good things were yeah. And also like it had really like impactful parts to the story, you know, like um losing family and also the positivity and like there's always something you can do and I loved the like sweetness of, you know, always being able to build like a safe little sanctuary for yourself no matter like what's going on in your life, which I thought that was really beautiful and wonderful and wholesome and heartwarming. um and the humor, I like laughed out loud for a few times, and I loved what they did with Sunny and the subtitles, and I just thought that was so silly. And I thought that uh the little baby toddler that they had for that, I think they were she was just adorable. um
I saw some outtakes where Meryl Streep's telling them about Ike when it was with the chilled cucumber soup, and they had to redo it because Sonny kept falling asleep, and like they had to like the whole take because like Violet's going like, oh, oh.
Oh, that's precious. Yeah, I thought they did mostly good, and yeah, but I was really creeped out by the CGI they had to do with Sunny too. Mainly the snake one. That was really unfortunate.
It's a shame
Oh,
they had
and
to do that.
non-friendly. Was that?
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
shame they kind of did the CGI parts because it's kind of like in the last Alien film. It's like it's all so practical and so like real and like everything's done with like classic old school effects and everything's done in camera. And then there's that bit that's just done CGI and it immediately dates it. And it's just like, oh, really?
Mm.
It's just such a shame
It like
because it looks so wonderful otherwise.
it brings to mind, I don't know if I think not all of us have seen it, but the Twilight, like the baby in Twilight. Did anybody
Oh,
see?
God. I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
It's
That
entering
was
that
a
territory.
That knows all about that. God,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't want to agree it's that bad, but
Yeah,
that
it's
was a
not as bad
different
as that.
level.
it's
That was
it's at
bad
least
for
short.
that was bad for
CGI
so many
babies is a
reasons.
bad idea anyway. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
a bad
like the
idea.
flaw of like bad babies.
If you can get away with not doing a CGI baby, take it.
Yeah, just
But yeah, so and I had difficulty scoring the acting because like this style of acting is hard to do and well and like not be annoying and so like I had trouble with that. But I know that there's a lot of talented actors in here. It's just like, and I completely agree about Jim Carrey. Like, I love him. He's like bonkers, so fun to watch. But he is repetitive in his movies. Like, I kept on thinking of The Grinch when I was watching this. Um, and I will say, have to say, like, the acting that, like, young actors, like, it's always a challenge. I like actually didn't I wasn't a huge fan of the sister. I don't know her. I haven't seen her in many things, but I didn't think her performance was particularly good in this. Um
Oh, Emily
but
Browning.
Emily
yeah, Emily
Brown,
Brown.
no.
I know. Sorry.
And she did
um
get better as she got older.
oh, okay, yeah. I would definitely like to see her in more things. I'm glad that she's continued on in her career and
I
grown.
don't know.
She was quite young in this, right? So
Yeah,
um
I don't know if you pick up on it, not that going through it like frame by frame, but there is like a little bit with Emily Browning where it's when it's when Olaf is Stefano and he like puts the knife in the door to stop him shutting it, and Klaus reacts and he goes, but then you look at Emily Browning and she's just like, "Hmm." It's like a super short like little shot, but I was just like, ah, come on, you could have put
oops.
something in there.
Yeah, so like I it had this movie had like a lot going for it, like good bones and it was just how it was told throughout. Like the story never really, like, it got me in like small impactful moments. And I just thought I could do so much more. Like the story of the flow of the story, I just like it just didn't really grab me as much as I would have hoped. But there is so much to love about this movie, and I did enjoy a great deal of it. But so yeah, that's just that's my opening thoughts.
Yeah, I did have a few moments where I was going like, "Oh, that's a really nice thought," and like that's a really sweet idea, and that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I suppose I just wish it was a bit more kind of like apparent through what they were doing, like the things that they were trying to say. Um, yeah, like I would have liked to have like seen more instances of like the well, I've already said it really, but like more instances of Emily Browning's character kind of like coming up with like really interesting things rather than being given things, and sort of just things along those lines really.
See, I enjoyed when they had to make the dinner, and they're trying to. She's like, we need a pot, we need a spittoon. No, no, sorry, we need a pot, we need a don't need a spittoon. We need a strainer, we need a saucepan, and then and then they find like the fly screen, and they're like, yeah, that'll be a strainer, like no problem. And then Sonny comes in with a spittoon, and they're like, and then Violet's like, wash it twice. I really like stuff like that, where you kind of get in little bits of her ingenuity, and then just like, oh, that bit doesn't matter because they're dickheads.
That was cool. Yeah, we needed more of those because that's when it shines as being original and quite inventive, and you can see the character's ingenuity. Well, like you see the flashbacks or like the focuses on when Klaus is looking. Is like, oh, you need what did you read? And you just see the books being pulled out the the shelf, and I thought that was a really cool like visual imagery of his mind just being like, oh yeah, and this is how I know how to do this, and this is how I need to do that. That was pretty clever.
That's nice and stylish way of doing it.
Yeah, it was really well done.
I think it's sometimes I said to Robert, kind of borderline on pantomime, just ever so slightly on certain bits. It was a scene in the market with Josephine and then Olaf and then the two kids, and kind of felt like he's behind you, kind of like back and forth bit in a way.
It was a bit,
What behind
it was a bit like
yeah,
it just felt a bit like like okay, like going for the cycle again. It kind of happens, you know, the thing with a pantomime, it kind of happens on multiple occasions when the villain comes on. It's like, oh yeah, he's kind of. I know he is, isn't he? It's like just felt a bit like that. Also, kind of
that bit did really remind me of Roald Dahl. Just kind of like because it's kind of like you're putting yourself in the child's perspective and their point of view. Is that the kids? They're all 100% are clued in that Olaf is none of his disguises or like his like facades they can see right through it after 1 second and they just notice him, and all the adults are kind of a bit clueless, and I thought that was quite funny and quite endearing about the story is because all the adults are kind of like buffoons in a sense, and the kids are the only ones that kind of like see things for what they are. So it was quite a good metaphor for these horrible people in real life. Only like innocent minds can kind of like understand and kind of spot them because because of the trauma they went through, they kind of are more susceptible to knowing what is kind of genuine and what isn't. And so Olaf's stupid disguises are obviously they're so kind of cartoony, they're so Hanna-Barbera, Looney Tunes level, like silly disguises. And it's just stupid that all these adults are getting fooled by it. Like, obviously, the banker, what's his face?
Mr. Perry.
And, yeah, Timothy Spall and Meryl Streep, especially when he does the stupid, like, the sea captain kind of routine. And all those little things like that. And obviously, you saw those bits, it's like, and they don't kind of notice until the kids kind of pointed out and say, oh yeah, you're right, that's something what's going on. I didn't notice this. So I think that's kind of like part of the DNA from the books bleeding into the film is that this is a kid's story, So we're telling it from their point of view, and they're kind of like they're the surrogates to what you're going to experience. And yeah, they're not idiots. These three children that we're following from start to finish, it's still your journey we're going with them from, and then we kind of have to make sure that they're represented in a way that they're not being made a fool of. They do fail and they do make mistakes, but they're not fools, which is a good lesson to kind of like come across.
Yeah, I do think that's an aspect of it that I did like that was because I was kind of I found it hard to kind of get on board with it, but the bits that I did like were the whole well, it's kind of the whole thing about how it was kind of like them coming together to survive, and sort of like playing off one another's strengths and sort of making do with what they've got, kind of thing. And what you were just saying there as well, like they're kind of they're kind of like pulling out the good in like childhood innocence, because it was kind of like the opposite of what things like the Brothers Grimm and all of that kind of stuff does, because sometimes they can feel a bit like the message of him is kind of going like, are you a child? Well, don't be. And it's like this was kind of it was kind of like saying like, you know, you do have some kind of like you have a different perspective, and your perspective is important as well, and I thought that was really sweet.
Well, we've just had Camilla's score in with a grand total of 6.7. Camilla, care to comment?
Yeah,
Oh, I said your score's just coming.
Oh, was it just
Yeah,
coming in? I didn't
grand
know.
total of 6.7.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I liked it, kind of like.
Oh.
So
no,
I
no.
only read the first book, and I read it when I was, I don't know, 12. I don't remember when it came out. And I did like that Jim Carrey's character was yeah, not as sinister as he is in the book. I imagined him to be yeah, a much more creepy. Like I wasn't really when I saw that Jim Carrey was going to be in it, I wasn't really sure what to expect, because I was just like, I can't picture Jim Carrey as what I remember picturing that character as. I think yeah, a lot of people have said so far, and obviously it is a children's film, but I think if I'd watched it as a kid, I'd feel a lot differently than I would watching it as an adult. Just because I'm just very aware. Like, I think as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, he wants to marry Violet to get his money on the fortune and blah 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 blah. And as an adult, I'm just like, where are the adults in this room? Like, what's going on? Like, why is the justice of the peace happy to do a play in which a 14-year-old is playing the bride of this like 50-year-old man who is also her guardian, and nobody is like, I know it's like a play, but this is like very strange.
Oh yeah, who played the judge as well? I forgot her name. She's well
Oh, she was
known.
in Sabrina the Teenage
O'Hara.
Witch. Yeah, I couldn't remember who she was. She was one of the aunt.
Sorry, I don't actually remember from Sabrina Teenage Witch, but
Kevin
what?
McAllister's
No,
mum.
I mean, I don't remember that she was in
She's
it.
the mum in Home.
Oh yeah, that was the first thing I remember her from properly.
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek too.
Hmm?
Schitt's Creek. If anybody's seen that, I haven't watched it all. Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I've seen a lot of memes about it.
She's in Beetlejuice and she's in After Hours, which we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great comedic actress.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was really good in this, but I was just irritated by everybody.
Everything.
Like I hated Olaf less than I was expecting to, because I'm like, oh, you're just an idiot. Like when I read the books, I was like, oh my gosh, this man is so evil and blah blah blah. And yeah, he's obviously evil in this. He's actually quite a body count in the number of people he's killed. But I'm just like, you just like think this through, like in a sensible manner, and like, oh, it was just annoying me. trying to remember what else I was thinking of it now. But yeah, it was just so annoying that like none of the adults would listen to the children enough for it to be like for anything to be achieved, and to like help them in any way. And how little thought was, and I think this is, I can't remember from the book, and maybe it's a part of the downfall of the setting, but it's like this ambiguous setting where like it kind of gives Victorian, but then there's so many anachronisms. It's also like, is it just in like an alternative version of the 21st century? But because of all those things, it just makes it more frustrating that like there's no actual process for these kids' welfare and looking after them, and no one who's like, Olaf is the first person who gets custody of them, which fine, like maybe he's doctored the paperwork or
Oh,
whatever.
he's the closest guardian. That means geographically.
Yeah.
I guess. But it's just
like,
it's
no,
just
that's
like
not what that means.
nothing's
It's like,
been
you're right.
explained to him, and the home hasn't been checked to make sure is it appropriate for children to be in. And
It feels like
and this is
it's
really, really stupid thing to be annoyed at, but I'm just like, given the context, like I just feel like a little bit more effort being made to like the kids' wellness would make this story so compelling that guardian is trying to steal their fortune, and he's like in all these disguises and committing all these murders, and all these like crazy fantastical things are happening. But it's like, I don't know, it just feels like it's just like, yeah, obviously like something bad is going to happen immediately because he's just so primed for it. Like we've not even tried to make it look like they were gonna enjoy themselves. Like even when they were with the guardian that they really liked, it was still a bit sketch. So it's like, right, we have to go to Peru tomorrow, and you're like, okay, so what's gonna happen? Just oh, we've been watching this story now in this house for 18 minutes, so someone's about to die. Cool, great. Like, yeah, but also having read the book, it was nice to kind of get a better sense of some of the other things that go on, because as I said, I only read the first book, and that is literally I'm living with Olaf and then the wedding, and then that scene is played differently. So in the book, they have read somewhere that you have to sign with like your dominant writing hand or something for it to be legal, a valid marriage, but she signs it with her left hand because she's ambidextrous, and that's like how it's made null, which again, she's 14. Like anyway, but so all of that kind of being out of order was interesting. So it's kind of like, I don't know where this story's going, but I do wish there was a better context to the secret society. It's like such an interesting, and maybe this is if I was a kid I would feel differently watching, but like this, like so many like little clues here and there, and these kids have never picked up on any of it beforehand. But I just kind of wish there was more about that, and there wasn't. And yeah, the CGI kind of was a bit, I didn't love that. So yeah, I didn't give it the best score, but I think it was like a decent like middle level, middle of the road film. Nothing bad to say about the actors, because yeah, the kids weren't perfect, but they're kids, and then all the adults are like masters. And Jim Carrey did Jim Carrey, but like he was what the part called for. Because if you're going to go down the more comedic route, I think he was perfect to have in that role. So that's everything.
He did do some good characters. Like he shifted different characters. Like the one in the where he pretended to be a snake guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He did he transformed fairly well for that with the whole voice and everything. But yeah, and regarding I did get frustrated with how the kids were taken care of in this movie. So frustrated on the incompetence of every adult. But that made me think. So I did understand if it was this took place a long time ago. Like I got from the dress and everything that this was a long time ago. So then, childcare back then wasn't the greatest. And so I could understand that. And I completely understand. It took me a second. I was so frustrated. I was like seeing it from the point of view of the children, being so frustrated at the adults not listening to them. And I was just like, but I'm like, oh, actually, it's pretty common for adults not really take children all that seriously, because, and that's unfortunate. And it's just like you kind of wish that, anyway. But I understood that. It was still frustrating though. Um, but oh shoot, I'm forgetting something else I wanted to say. Maybe I'll remember it later, but um damn. Anyway. Uh oh yeah, I like, was it ever explained why the parents, like, were they like, I get the children loved their parents and were really connected to them, and like obviously so grieved when they died. So like, why didn't the parents set up like a good living situation for them in the case of their death? Is that, I was confused by that.
I thought they had, and that was the being sent to someone in the society. But obviously, Olaf was a deviant from that society because he got greedy and wanted them money. That was my understanding of it. That was like their plan was to just send them off to somebody in that group because they trusted that society. But Olaf was a deviant from that.
It's
Yeah,
more fleshed out in the books than in the series, better than how the film did it, just because of like the things they could have like missed out on, and obviously like what we know about Monty and everything. Like I think like obviously Lemony Snicket himself says it would have been perfect if it all ended there, but they didn't account for Olaf being like the betrayer. He was the mole. He was the one that was going to mess it all up because he was a part of the society and everything. And it was like everything was perfect. He kind of ruined it all.
Okay, sorry, my computer froze up a little bit. I missed a lot of what Rachel said. Would you mind like nutshelling it, Rachel?
Oh gosh, I can't remember what it said. That I thought they trusted people in the society to be like a guardian or carer, and then Olaf was obviously baddie that they didn't realise was a bad guy and was trying to steal from them. But I think they thought they could trust the kids in the care of people in that society.
Absolutely. I trust the people in the society for the most part. Meryl Streep though was a little sketchy.
Yeah, she was questionable.
I
But
think after her husband died, it really hit her hard. She said how she used to be very different, and if the husband was still alive, it probably would have been a very different living situation.
yeah. So, but Count Olaf, was he part of the society or no? He did. Oh, he was. Oh,
I thought he was because he had the. Well, I don't know.
He was in the picture? Was he in the picture? Because Monty was and Josephine was. I swear he was in that photo too, unless I'm remembering wrong.
You know what? I can go and check because I have the film open right.
Maybe he
now.
wasn't. Maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe that's why the society existed, because these random fires were happening and they didn't know why, and they were investigating that because that's what she said, didn't she, Josephine? That's what Ike was doing. So maybe it was a case of he was a bad person, wanted money, and they'd gone off to figure out why so many fires were happening. That was it. I don't know.
I had the kind of impression, at least when I was first watching it.
Yeah. Sorry.
But what you find out, Alec?
You can see him.
He's in the photo. Okay.
I thought. Yeah, I thought. As a society, they had their own things going on, which was going well. And like you guys said, he wanted something else, and they were like no, and obviously, they kept looking into the fires, but then everyone kept dying. Anyway, it's cool to confirm. It's good to confirm that he was in the photo. Also, I was gonna say one of the things I was gonna say that I kind of did like almost the pantomime type way of it. I don't know why, but I think the way the kind of film and story is, it kind of just suited in my head being in that kind of style. So it didn't really annoy me, but maybe I just hated Olaf so much it just distracted me from everything else. I don't know. But I kind of like, oh, that was it. Like the whole kind of, oh, there's an anchor here. Oh, there's a fire extinguisher. It kind of just made me feel like how a younger mind might come to make a story and how a child or a child or whatnot might imagine something like this in this fantastical world with a lot of things that don't quite make complete sense, or it's like this different amalgamation. You've got like 1890s values with technology from like the 50s and and all this kind of like mixing stuff going on. And in my head, because it feels so removed from reality and so much in the mind of imagination of some young person, I I just kind of don't even really think about a lot of the other stuff. Um, Obviously, it's not as far removed as something like Alice in Wonderland, with obviously they are just in a completely different place. That probably came to mind because of the ballet we saw. But yeah, so it is. I do get it is a strange one because it is in a kind of real place, but not a real place. So it's like, how are you meant to kind of think about this film from there?
Just on the this is really pointless, but I'm going to say it anyway because of the time in big the fact that when it was set was ambiguous. Because it really surprised me when he locked the car with the key, um, like at a distance. Because I was like, oh, that feels very modern, and the key even in his hand looked like a really modern like car key. But I remember being sitting there thinking, fuck, like why was he able to do that? It's not that's not it. Yeah, it threw me, and I didn't kind of think about it further until obviously Corey and Camilla were talking about the time it was set, but that then felt off to me because if that felt too modern for where they were pitching it to be. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I think the brother was wearing Converse shoes. I noticed that too. Huh.
I think so. Yeah, I forgot about that. Such a random mix.
Yeah, that's the thing.
God. Ah,
Pat?
that hasn't said his opening statement.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm mute.
Hello there.
Hello.
Nice jersey.
Thanks. Sorry, I zoned out for a few minutes. Yeah, I watched it when it first came out in the cinema. Just because of Jim Carrey, so I never read the books, never even heard of it. Never read a Lemony Snicket book. But yeah, I really liked it, but I have reservations about the acting for the most part. Like Jim Carrey carried this film. But I feel like as someone that really likes Jim Carrey, if he's carrying your film, you've got problems. You know? Like I'm not going to be too harsh on the kid actors. Like I thought Emily Browning was okay at best. The brother was I even felt like this is probably one of Meryl Streep's worst performances that I've seen. But like I don't necessarily think that the acting was all that important. I thought the storytelling was quite strong. The set design, the costumes and stuff that's already been mentioned was fantastic. But I did love Jim Carrey's sort of menacing nature to him. which he's done in one or two other films. Like if you've seen Cable Guy as well, that's another sort of more straight laced Jim Carrey film.
You should pick that, Ben.
Um,
Yeah, cable guy.
but obviously this wasn't, well, I don't know if it's that obvious, but this isn't the first time both Billy Connolly and Emily Browning were in the same film. So a mate of mine who I saw it with had mentioned that they were in an Australian film together called The Man Who Sued God, which is a comedy. It's not necessarily a very good comedy, but I found it quite funny when I went back and watched it. But I absolutely love Billy Connolly anyway, so like that was always going to be the case. That I was going to enjoy it. But no, I thought it was a good film. I was glad to watch it again. I was very surprised that that was an Alec film. That's happened quite a few times now in recently. But no, it was a perfectly fine film.
What did speaking of Alec, what did Ebony think of what does Ebony think of this film?
Oh, she fucking loves it. It's another one of those ones that she grew up with and possibly influenced a lot of her general sort of taste in the things. So yeah, was surprised when she gave Story a 10, but
I agree.
I
I did
was
lower
shocked
it
that
to.
you
no,
gave
you
Story.
don't. You gave it a 9.5.
I lowered it after listening to what you guys said. Even though I'm very happy with how it is. It is true. It has things that could be improved, but I still love it as it is. I did imagine that she probably didn't really like it. Because I don't know what it is, but I was just like, I could imagine this is a very easy film for like both of you guys to like. For it might be various different reasons, but I was like, yeah, I could imagine her liking this. This is a young Eb film.
Definitely.
And when you were saying gateway film, Rachel, I was imagining going from this and then watching Wednesday, like modern day, or going to uh, Beetlejuice, Adam's Family, and just going down that kind of path, but not watching Repo, of course. Stop there. Reverse.
Yeah.
Don't need to go that far.
Yeah, I was thinking while I was watching it, I was surprised that, well, there was lots of things that were making me go like, oh, that's what's made Alec do this, and this is where Alec got that from, and that kind of thing. But I think where I was surprised is that a lot of it is quite Tim Burton in a way that you don't usually like. So like I was thinking of like when Simon picked Sleepy Hollow, and a few of the sort of like stylistic things that were grating on you in Sleepy Hollow, I was thinking that's kind of like it's not as strong in this, but there's kind of bits that are sort of hammer horror-y in this, and yeah.
But it's good, so that's where the paths diverge.
See, maybe there's like I guess there's a level of it. There's a line. If you go too far,
To
you're
be
like,
honest, I anticipated the Tim Burton thing coming up, and I do agree. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is just kind of like there's a level of humor to it that I'm like, this is quite effective, and that's how I know Tim Burton had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that thing that you've pasted. Oh, it's Pat Stewie.
it's camera's off, so something happened.
But no, the bit of trivia that Pat posted, like it's so like it almost reads as if it's a joke, because it's like, yeah, Tim Burton nearly directed this, and it's like, of course, and Johnny Depp would have played Count Olaf, and it's like, yeah, of course he would. And Glenn Close would have been Meryl Streep's character, and it's like, yeah.
Would have been
Oh, by the
Helena
way,
Bonham Carter.
Helena Bonham Carter's actually in this. She's like the Baudelaire mum for like a very brief shot.
Okay.
Oh,
It's when,
Oh,
it's
wow,
when
really?
Sonny's holding herself up on the table by her teeth. You can just see Helena Bonham Carter's chin. Just
Oh,
slipped
wow.
out.
Damn.
Wasn't Glenn Close also going to be swapped in for Meryl Streep in Defending Your Life as well? I can't remember. Was it
Glenn
originally meant
Close
to
and
be her?
Meryl Streep are
Yeah.
very.
Yeah.
Interchangeable. I thought
Yeah,
Glenn
they
Close
are.
wasn't available. Let's look in Meryl instead.
They've lived
Do you reckon when
parallel lives.
when the cast
Yeah.
and director, like, whenever they
Meryl
try and
Close
hire Glenn Close, they install a
Glenn
revolving
Streep.
door when Meryl Streep comes in.
They're always together, but never at each other's side.
Yeah, they're never there at the same time. So they could be the same person. Who knows?
That's great. I'm imagining Glenn Close showing up at Meryl Streep's for dinner, and she's just going like, "Oh, I got offered a part the other day." And Meryl Streep's like, "Cool, sounds good. We'll be there."
You just imagine Meryl Streep opening the door to Glenn Close and being like, "Not like this."
Oh man, oh, that's great. On a random one, I didn't notice that the brother was actually taller than Browning by the end of the film.
Wait, what?
He grew.
So yeah,
Is that a problem?
No, it's just inconsistencies. But
Oh.
obviously, literally, because of I don't know how long it took to shoot, but he grew, and ended up he was shorter than her, but by
he
the end
grew
of the
from
film,
okay.
he was taller than her.
Wow.
He grew and he was shorter than her. That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
I did
because they
notice
kept
something.
having to adjust his outfits and stuff because he kept growing. He was having a growth spurt during this filming.
I did notice something, and I'm not saying that this is an issue, because I think I only noticed because I was sitting on the floor, so I was quite close to the TV. But so Billy Connolly has got like a mole there,
Yeah.
and there was one scene where the mole was fine, and then the next scene it was like he scratched it too hard because there was a scab on it. And then the scene after it was fine again.
You know what? I was just about to rewind and see if I could notice that, and I was like, you know what? I believe it.
Multiple take.
Oh man, that's funny.
But I kind of noticed it and went, "Oh, that must have hurt."
Just imagine he was doing it like in character as well. He's just being Uncle Monty, and he's just like, "Oh, hey, children, don't." I don't know what that accent is. But then he likes and he just goes like that, and he's like, "Fuck."
Oh, good old Billy.
One thing that did make me kind of smile was when they said her on Josephine's fear of realtors. That's it.
How
And I
is
was
this
just
an
like,
American word that you're not familiar with?
I was too young when I left. I was 10.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like now you just seen realtors and gone.
I mean, I personally think that's a legit for having.
Yeah, it's 100% a legitimate fear.
That's where the narration was absolutely fucking dead wrong. He was like, "There's an irrational fear, and that was irrational." And it's like,
That's what I said as well.
Yeah, Camilla said the same thing. And then I was just like, wow, it's irrational at her level. She opened this door. It's just like, it's just like, okay, maybe a bit much. Maybe
No,
you
I
could.
think that's the appropriate level of fear.
So it certainly gets them going the other way anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, I don't blame you. That's a good one.
Oh,
But
and the realtor, wasn't that she was in Role Models, wasn't she?
yeah, that is Jane Lynch. Yeah.
Jane Lynch. Yeah, I always forget her last name.
Also in Only Murders in the Building.
And let me tell you, don't try and bullshit her because she's got a bullshit detector. And if you bullshit, she's going to detect your bullshit, and then she'll bullshit right back at you until you're in a big heap of bullshit.
Legitimate fear for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh well, you're funny. I didn't actually realize that was her. I didn't see her for long enough.
Unless she got a really iconic face.
She
To be fair,
does, but
she's made up quite weirdly in that.
Mm.
I don't know,
I
I
will
recognise
find a
it.
picture to absolve Emmanuel's.
He is bad with faces, to be fair.
no,
Yeah.
I'm good with faces
Are
usually.
you?
I'm bad with names.
True.
I'm the
But
exact
I was
same. Man.
I was distracted by Aunt Josephine and laughing at that. I wasn't really paying attention to the screen. Like as soon as she came up, I'm just laughing at the fact that she's screaming. So I'm not paying attention to whoever the realtor was.
Yeah. Completely fair. Aunt Josephine was like the one of the most, I hate to say it, one of the most relatable characters. Like everything she was scared of was exactly what, like, I'll think in my head, like, this could happen. But I don't act on it. I
Thank
just like
you.
live with
I
it.
thought I was alone.
And whenever like pretty much all the things she was worried about started happening. And I loved when like the door handle you could see it was gonna shatter. And Emily's character is just like, no, no, and you as well, just like, really? No. This is actually happening. It's like, get down. That whole scene was just mental.
Mhm.
It was also like, I think it gets away with it because they are kids and whatnot. But there's that kind of moment where I'm just like, madness is going on. Why aren't you leaving the house? Just leave the house. It's obviously not safe inside.
Because they had to set up the jumping to the boat thing. They had
The
people to do
jumping onto the ledge.
that was it.
Yeah, they did not jump into the seat. For a moment, I thought that might actually happen. But
Me-
to be honest, what they tried to do was better. Oh, of course, it would have been better if they made with haste. Because there were just moments where they were just standing. We're just like, I get you're in shock, but can you move a bit? It's
Yeah,
like,
when they got to solid ground, they just stood there. I'm like, you like go a little farther away, still keep going.
that as well. But I know that was done for that kind of, I would say, a visual effect. It's done for that kind of filmic effect of like, oh, they're here. Wait, it's falling apart, but they're okay. It's kind of like the whole kind of theatricalness of it, where the front of the house falls down, but they're fine because they're in the one place there was a door or window or empty, whatever. The
Yeah.
whole kind of improbable nonsense.
The house was so precarious. I can't believe that it hadn't fallen down already.
Yeah, it does make me think of, I think like Ben said, something in Roald Dahl or something like that. It's just, yeah, it's not practical. It's it's yeah. It's like, okay, this is like, yeah, is this house gonna fall any minute? Okay, there's hurricane level winds that come in, and the kids have more sense. They're just like, maybe you should move. No, I can't move. It's like, on one hand, I get why you wouldn't want to move, but is this actually congruent with your character? Like, you were scared of everything at this moment. And fair, you aren't scared of dying? Or maybe you don't care? But then if you didn't care, or are you just scared of pain? And but I don't know. Sorry, Alec.
I think the point of the house is to like kind of sum her up as a character of kind of like there is a massive technical, like just like instability about how she functions, and she does not want to confront it. So that's why she fixates on every other appliance. Like, but where I where I think it does not, it is not justifiable like at all, is when they're on the boat and they're going like, oh yeah, well, good thing that nobody ate because the leeches won't attack us. And then she's like, oh, and she like just throws a little banana skin overboard, and I was like, right, you've gone too far now. You've gone too
That didn't make any sense. That didn't make. She
No.
was so overly cautious, and then she has a banana peel. She was there.
Yeah.
Not Aunt Josephine. Not happening.
Well, that's the thing. Where she lived, like in that house itself, the construction of it over the cliff. Like, obviously, maybe over time it got worse and worse, but still, it's just like, yeah, you wouldn't be living. After the
Definitely
first,
that.
after the first month, it would be falling apart. You'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna move inland a bit. This isn't sound.
It's just so much like the cave being an actual real estate that someone could buy.
Yeah.
That's why you should be scared of estate agents.
It's just like, wow, I feel like maybe it wasn't for someone to live, but at the same time, it's just like, huh? But the way that after the banana peel, and she's like, we're doomed. And Emily's just like, you're not, that's not helping. It's just like, it's like, yeah, you're saying what I'm thinking. This ain't helping. Just shut up.
Just like doing like, oh yeah, well, realtors are gonna be here like very soon, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can get that. She's like, okay, we need to get out of here, but she can also be like, although I did eat a banana like half an hour ago, we should probably just. They're not realtors aren't gonna show up in half an hour. Let's be fair, like.
Especially when she's so scared of everything because, like, after her husband dying, so you willingly go into a scenario that is gonna echo the way your husband died. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is like the main thing that you would go out of your way to prevent. But
Absolutely.
sure,
That
okay.
that one's just bullshit.
Well, maybe like in fairness, like she is really scared of realtors, and but yeah, we just established that they wouldn't get there in half an hour. So, but she is so spooked by them, so I get why she'd want to be fast about it, I guess.
Just like, okay. I think it kind of like maybe they're trying to lean on like what Alex said before, just how inconsistent and just a lot of things don't make sense about her character. Maybe they kind of went a bit too far, but maybe they was trying to say she was so scared by the realtors she forgot about the whole big kind of trauma that was her husband dying to not listening to her. Like I don't know.
I do think it was funny. It was funny. She did one funny bit when she said when they were gonna get eaten by leeches, and then she was like, "Let's go back to the cave, and I'll take my chances with the realtor." I just thought that was really funny.
I think by that point it was too late, wasn't it? Was it sinking or?
Yeah, there are holes
No,
in the boat.
it was just about to. Just the leeches were just about to come. It was...
Yeah. It's like that's not helpful. It's too late. It's like as soon as the lights showed up, it's like, while I'm glad they're saved, we all know who it is. It's like piss. It's like pisses you off. It pisses me off that it's him. But at the same time, I'm glad that the children will be taken out of the situation. But then saying that, he wants them to die anyway. So what situation are they going into? It's like,
No, because you won't get the money if they die in that.
Oh yeah, true. He
Oh,
has
but
already learned that.
oh yeah, I forgot at which point he learns that he won't get it if they die.
That's a good.
It's after the trains. After the
Um,
he tries to kill them with the train, and Poe shows up.
But oh, did Poe tell them? Did Poe tell him immediately? I thought it was a little bit afterwards. Obviously, it's yeah. It's obviously it's weird. They never really connect that. It's the same person.
It's mad how they never connect as the same person. It's like, if you pay attention,
Yeah, they weren't paying attention.
and then they go back to him. Then he like lets the kids go back to him, which
oh, and why couldn't the kids just like they're trying to get to tell Monty, was he the snake guy? They
Yeah,
were trying to tell him like secretly. Why couldn't they just like tell him what was going on out loud? Like why?
they. I feel like they were trying to, but the problem was, because Count Olaf knew what was going on. If he knew how they were trying to tell him, he would just counter it,
Hmm.
and then that would be just another adult that's not listening to them. So they tried to say it another way, which they were successful in that. It's obviously more that,
he understood.
but it's an interesting one because he understood wrong, but technically he understood right, but in the wrong way.
So he understood wrong.
Yeah, he understood wrong, but he was also onto some. He was onto to more than what the kids realized. So it's just like, so obviously he's an imposter.
Mhm.
We all know that. He was just like, yeah, he's a spy for this society, for this whatever. Da, da, da. Was it a spy for what?
Yeah, some science thing. I like he thought it was related to his research.
Yeah, but in
Yeah.
a way, he was kind of like a spy to their own society in a way of he is spying in on them after they've casted him out, kind of thing. But that's just a stretch, I guess. But anyway, I just thought this is kind of interesting.
I thought that was a good twist actually, because like we got the satisfaction of like us thinking that okay, he's gonna take the kid seriously, but then it turns out he gets it a little wrong. Still, I thought that was a good bit.
Yeah, but it if he was if he actually still lived, I think it still would have had the same effect though. At the end of the day, I'm not sure he would have wanted to go to Peru with this guy because he also had his own reservations. He was just like, "What? You never feed this blah 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 to this." So even though it was for the wrong reasons, I felt like he didn't trust him at all anymore. So even if he was like, "Oh, he's a good scientist, but he's a spy," no, he sucks at his job and he's a spy. He's not going with us to Peru.
But him giving him that little test, the point is to kind of figure out is he for real or not, isn't it? When he's like, "Can you milk the whatever snake it was?"
Yeah, it was also to kind of distract him while he was talking with the kids. It was two things. He wanted to talk to them while like that's why he was saying, "Oh, pretend you're talking to your sister or whatever it is." So he can't tell like that something's going on. Um, yeah, lots of fun moments.
Mhm.
I like that they got to go to, I guess, that they went to Monty's afterwards, because I guess for the kids and as an audience, you kind of thought, oh, like, this is it. They're going to be relatively happy. It's going to all be okay. They had the similarities of losing their children, I think, and him perhaps looking for people to care for and vice versa. And then obviously it doesn't work out. So they then go to Josephine. So, yeah, I like that it kind of gave you maybe a sense of hope. And then obviously it was taken away as soon as Olaf came to the door.
Apparently, um, wait, is Brad the director?
Yeah, it's Brad
Brad
Silberling, I think.
Silberling.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the director?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this could have been, if things had gone his way, it might have ended up looking a bit more like um oh, what's the film like that is my worst pick of score pick? Shark Boy and Lava Girl. So he wanted to do Sunny completely CGI
Oh
the
god.
whole film, like pretty much almost the whole film.
You fool!
That's the Renaissance.
That was just like, wait, what? How? And obviously, people basically it was like, no, no, this is no, that's not gonna work. This is. But imagine if he got his way. Obviously, the budget would have went crazy, just like Sharp or Lava Girl, but it just would have looked weird the whole time.
Why on earth would you want to go through all that ball ache?
I think it's because he sounds like I don't. Well, before making this film, he sounds
Sounds
like one of those classic directors who don't understand how CGI really works and how it's made. And I feel like Ben, and there might be a few other people as well who get this. This the kind of CGI guys on YouTube who kind of give insights into what it's like in the industry
Yeah, the
and the
corridor
nonsense,
crew.
yeah, and the nonsense that they're told. Like the amount of like directors and studios and whatnot will tell them things that make absolutely no sense, and they need to achieve it within this crazy time frame. And it's just like, no, that's not possible. Well, you have to do it, or we'll get someone else. And it's just like, what? Do you understand
Yeah.
how this all works? This is not magic.
Yeah, and then they'd be like, I'll scrap it again. We need to make a little tiny adjustment, redo it from scratch. And that's why Marvel movies take so long to make, and why the CGI is so like a hodgepodge, like nightmare mess of a production, because it's like they do it all, and then they have to scrap it because the director or someone or one executive says, no, that I don't like that, redo it. So they have to start again. They have to re-render everything from the ground up, completely do a different pass on it. They sometimes have to do 3 different passes before they actually do the final pass, and then they kind of do the final render because the execs only want to see the final render. They don't want to see animatics. They have to see the final thing that you see in the cinema. So they have to do that, and then it's like, oh no, we're going to cut the scene. We've decided to cut the scene where this character makes a joke. We're going back again. We're going to redo it from scratch, and then they have to do that. So, and that's why it's so many like that. Just so like the budget is so mental because they have to redo like the CGI 16 times, and it's like I get why these films are so expensive because they have to keep doing it. If it was once, it'd be like, yes, a modest budget, it'll do fine, but it's just bad planning. It's just bad decision making, and that's why those films cost so much money. It's like, yeah, they
Yeah.
don't understand how much effort it takes to get good CGI. And like the old school directors from the 90s kind of did know. Like James Cameron knew how much effort it would be to make a CGI character. So they planned it, they storyboarded it, they did it every bit, step by step. And I was like, yeah, this is how I want it to be. This is what's going to be on the screen. You make this. It looks great. Great. Done. Perfect.
It's a change though, isn't it? Right? Because like
Yeah.
when it was still something new, the only people doing it were the people who cared enough to understand it. And then it
Yeah.
becomes mainstream, and it's like it's accessible to people who think it's a lot easier than it is.
Yeah. And the thing is so easy. It's
Corey's
not.
face.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? It's just that it takes you need like some films need like I think I can't remember Ant-Man and Quantum Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania had like 3 different production companies doing the CGI on it because one company isn't enough, and most of the time it isn't enough to do it. You need 3 different companies doing the backgrounds of the main characters and some of the visual effects, special effects work, and it's just like it's so much. That's why it's so much money and so much time.
Like, you look at something like Lord of the Rings where they did all this practical stuff.
Yeah, just
and
better.
they kind of put in the CGI to complement it and make it just look a bit smoother. Like in places, they didn't just go like, yeah, just CGI everything.
Yeah, they did it.
Like, don't do that
sparingly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
It's because studios are in such a rush to get things out, isn't it? So it means that you get choppy CGI all the time now.
But that's the stupid thing, is that if they're in a rush, then just let the original version be fine. It's just like, instead of like, oh, wait, we're gonna do it again. That means you're gonna have to be like working to the bone, getting all these people doing stupid, crazy overtime, like working like 24-hour shifts to get this thing done, and then it's just literally done for the last minute, and then it's still rubbish. And it's because they've been like stretched to such a small margin and worked so hard, and it's still like, oh, but you had 3 years to make this film. Why is it so bad? Oh, because we just did the final effects like a month ago. That's why.
Yeah, it isn't just a movie problem. Like,
yeah,
I might remember as well. Like, studios are trying to rush things out to their own clock, I guess, or their own calendar. Like, you look like Cyberpunk, which was released probably 3 years too early, and ended up being a visual buggy mess.
Yeah.
Just because they didn't give the developers the time to flesh out properly. And it's the same in sort of Marvel stuff now. They've got that Agatha thing out now that's not getting great scores either. Apparently the CGI is looking trash in that too. But
really?
they're just trying to rush everything out super quickly. I don't mind waiting an extra year or two. If like, because I think that James Cameron is probably one of the best exponents of CGI. Like, even like the early sort of stuff in The Abyss, is practical. I think Terminator was mostly practical effects as well. Avatar, even though it's quite hollow story wise, I think visually it's stunning. But then you've got the guys over at Disney doing the Marvel stuff, and to some extent Star Wars, that are just hashing CGI when it's only supposed to be an assistant tool kind of thing.
It's too bad.
Sorry, yeah.
You'd think it'd be the opposite, you know, as like technology advances, you'd think it'd get better, but it's really unfortunate.
It's like a lot of these things, isn't it? Because it's like the better the technology gets, the people with the money assume it's a lot easier to use it, and it's you get into like a weird. To be fair, a weird space where you are now, where AI is getting worse because it's learning from itself.
Yeah. I loved when Bill was saying something. Your expression, Corey, he was just like shaking your head. I was just like, that sums up how I feel about this. And then this is how you end up. The whole time I was thinking about this is how you end up with the babies from Flash in the movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those CGI babies. It's like, why did they have to do that?
To be fair, even those so you know the scene where like you've got all of the different references to like past DC universe stuff. Like some of those, like, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, like some of them were nice ideas, but you do kind of think if you couldn't get the actor on set, just leave it at this point. Like,
yeah, otherwise it becomes an animated film, isn't it? It's kind of like the argument with Avatar or something being live action. It's like, well, it's so much CGI, so it isn't really a live action film anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like people were saying, oh yeah, the live action remake of The Lion King. Well, you're saying it wasn't. Like, wait, you're saying it wasn't CGI the whole time? Literally, 99.9% of the film was CGI. It's another animated adaptation of the original film, so you can't say it's bloody like live action, can you? It just was photo real
Oh no, Ben. There's actually people that believe that they use real lions, as if they're to get them to behave that way.
Well, are they like indoctrinated by AI as well? Probably. I think. Oh yeah, that's Donald Trump saving all these people from floods. That 100% happened.
To me,
It's so worrying.
Did you see that NFT collection that he released?
Oh jeez.
There was stuff like that in there. There was like pictures of him like planting an American flag somewhere, and like it was like
These
it was a bit
people,
like
what?
you know that photo of Putin that went viral where it's like him sat on a horse topless.
Oh,
It was all
oh
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Jesus Christ. And one that even if it was real, it'd be like, why has he done this? This is so staged. It's like so unrealistic, and yet it obviously didn't happen. But people are so like indoctrinated by it all. It's like Jesus Christ.
But that's the thing with CGI, though, isn't it? It's got because it's something that we spoke about before, where it's like, so if you look at something like Terminator 1, for example, you know the scene where he's looking in the mirror and half of his face is like sort of pulled off kind
All
of thing,
falling apart. Yeah.
and it's like it looks ridiculous, and it's there's no way of looking at that and thinking, yeah, that's reasonable, like it looks stupid, but because it's actually on his face, it does feel like it could be real. Whereas
Yeah.
CGI, like, unless it's like photorealistic, which is we're just we maybe are there, but like we're not there in terms of like resources yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you can get it to be like on a photorealistic level, it always stands out.
Yeah, and
True.
that's why you gotta give them the time.
Yeah.
Because we've got all the technology, we've got if anyone like for anyone who does know ray tracing and stuff that emulates really realistic lighting, like photorealistic lighting and how it interacts with the world. It's just like, yeah, just give the people the time,
Yeah.
and
It's
you can make what you want.
Yeah, it's also one last thing to say about it is that it's the filmmaker's ingenuity helps improve CGI as well. I think, like I know most of us probably have seen Alien Romulus, but there was a controversial scene in that film where they brought an actor back from the dead using
Oh
CGI.
yeah,
But there are ways to do it better that you could have, like, regardless of the moral ramifications of bringing someone back that is no longer with us. It's just like they could have done it better by like filmmaking techniques, like shooting him in shadow, putting him on like the screen, like me and Rob mentioned, making it all like fuzzy and distorted. Have little like techniques where you just see like the back of his head, or just a extreme close up of just the eyes, so you don't see him speak.
Beard on him.
Yeah, put something that kind of distracts you
yeah,
from what's going on. And like the same goes for when they brought Tarkin back in Rogue One. It's kind of like, yeah, it's technically a marvelous thing to do, but it didn't look good because you knew he was dead, and two, they kept on zooming in on his face. It's like they just did like a shot of his reflection on the window. Perfect. You can see that's just enough, like, to make you doubt that. Wait, is that really him? It makes you
yeah.
think. Oh, that disguises it a bit.
Yeah.
It
And
makes
it's
you
more like
question it. Don't question it as much. It's just
and it,
that's clever filmmaking.
Because that's the thing, like it kind of felt like it was repeatedly going like, "Hey, Ian Holm is here," and it's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
and he's not. It's
but
like
yeah, that's
this.
the thing. He's like, he's not here, and
Yeah,
the way that you've presented him kind of draws attention to him not being here. and
he's
it's
96-year-old and he's dead.
and that's the thing. If they'd have done something like you're saying, like just kind of like presented him in as a reflection or something like that. Yeah, that would have been that would have felt a lot more respectful, and it would have been quite a nice
yeah,
moment to be like, oh shit, is that him? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's more
he's,
like a homage. Like,
yeah,
here's a
exactly,
nod
yeah,
to someone who is great. Let's carry on.
yeah.
yeah,
It's one of the
because
less is more kind of thing. It's kind of like with Jaws. Remember when we talked about Jaws? Is that obviously the shark had so many shoots and stuff, so Spielberg was like constricted, making it a scary, interesting villain or threat to the characters in the film. So he kind of shot the shark in such a way that you could only do like certain like scenes where you could only see part of it. He never saw the whole thing, and when he did, it was only like for literally 0.5 one fraction of a second, and it was just it didn't dwell on what you saw. The visual effects were just like quick. Oh, cut to this, and you just saw bits of it. It was not like the whole thing, because he knew that if he did see more of it, the audience would be like, "Oh, that's a fake shark. That looks crap. That just looks rubbish. That's just a man in a suit. That's blah blah blah." It's like, oh, it's just you have to learn the filmmakers aren't savvy like they were back then. Nowadays, they kind of think that CGI will be fine, it'll fix it, and it doesn't, because the audiences are more savvy now. We can spot these things. We can tell when things are real and when they're not.
And the thing is, even if you can't pick it up the first time, you're going to pick it up later.
But even
Like,
that's a
yeah.
weird thing though, because like you look back at like Terminator 2 is a good one. Like you kind of have a level of going like, holy shit, this is like 30 years old and it looks like that. But there's also a part of you that's going like, in 30 years we haven't moved on from that. Like
Yeah, on a to go closer back to what we were the film. A kind of a horror film that does a similar aspect to what you said in Jaws bin that I appreciate is Babadook. I do appreciate how they do a similar kind of thing of they don't really do that reveal until like very late in the film. It's just a little bit, and it's a better way to do things. And they could have taken that approach with unexpected events. I do remember unfortunate events. I do remember, like you guys were saying, one particular scene with the brother going, "Oh, that's a green screen." Like, whenever you have those moments, that's never good. You do favorite scenes?
I've got one this week.
Yay!
I've got a very clear, a very clear favourite, because it was the scene that I don't know, yeah. So I didn't find a lot of it funny, but this scene I thought was brilliant, and it was actually the one I thought you'd have the biggest issue with. So it's well, actually it's just after that. It's not that one. So it's I forget his name now, but the guy with the glasses that go over his eyebrows, the sort of guardian kind of guy.
Oh.
So it's when they're on the train track and and he turns up after like they've gone through this big thing to divert the train, and he's just behind them bibbing. And it's it's the line after that where he's saying that Olaf is irresponsible for letting him drive the car, and then he's like, no, he tried to kill us, and he's like, let's not exaggerate, the car wasn't even in gear. I thought that was such a well-written joke.
Good old Timothy Spall.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, to riff on that, I think that's one of my favorite scenes as well. Just the whole train sequence was great, just because it's like so well done. It's like how tense it was, and how inventive the kids were, as Alec mentioned, with just like figuring out what was in the car they could use to kind of save their lives at that point. And it was just like the ticking clock. It was just like, there's so much at stake here, and it's like that everything was so executed and balanced, and the tension was just so perfect. And you see Olaf in the gas station, wherever it was, and just like binding his time kind of thing. Just all of that was so well done. The joke at the end that Rob mentioned, just the perfect payoff of it all. Even the bit before where they're just speaking to him on the phone, and he's just like, "I can't hear you. There's a train. I'm just passing a train." It's just like, it's just so comic. The comic timing of it's so great. It's just that's the highlight of the film for me.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene is the pasta making scene, or making the dinner. Because it's just they're thrown into this nonsensical situation where this guy does this guy have any food? Like how meant to make anything. They just see cockroaches and probably mice and all sorts of nonsense. It's like maybe they're meant to grill the mouse if they
Don't
find one.
understand. He wanted roast beef. Did he say no?
Yeah, that was so frustrating. It's like they left perfectly good pasta dishes and they didn't touch them. It's like what? Oh, it's like,
That's your trigger then.
yeah, it is the Western food. That was like they painstakingly made it. Because where would they get the roast beef if they don't have the money or the beef? It's like there's nothing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Where's the beef?
Maybe you see he wanted fake beef. You see, you gotta get the mice, you gotta
Yeah,
cook them and pretend it's beef.
yeah, but the
You know?
roaches is flavoring. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. See, you get it. It's seasoning. Corey's face.
Extra salty.
Oh yeah, exactly.
My oh sorry. um
Mhm.
yeah, I could say I guess I was trying to wait till later because mine's at the end when Jude Law is narrating, of course, again, and he's talking about something that was really heartwarming about the story, and what I really love to take away as just like a good lesson in life and something is how no matter how bad things get, there's always something to be done. Like you're never like hopeless, and you could always make yourself like a safe sanctuary to rest and protect yourself. And that was the end. Of course, it was really heartwarming because they all still had each other. Family. I just like I really that really made me feel good. So that's my favorite part.
Oh.
Yeah, that was nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. What happens? I was gonna ask, what happens after like this film in the books? I don't know.
Wait, what'd you say again? What happens after Olaf?
What happens like after this film in the books, or does it carry on?
Well, it kind of like they kind of like what's the word? Condense it a bit in the film version, but obviously it does. They have more than three guardians, so they end up going to a boarding school as well. And Olaf obviously tries to kind of like steal them away from that. He has a like hot air balloon. He has a submarine. The thing ends up in the Alps, and they kind of have to escape from like basically Mount Everest because he's kidnapped them and they just let them chase down the mountain.
Why
It
does
is
he need
mental.
money again?
Hmm?
Why does he need money again? If he's got.
That's the thing. It's just so cartoonish, but it's just so. It's just like he's just so obsessed with getting them, and it's like obviously the law do arrest him, and he goes on trial, and he kind of like duffs his way out of it, and it
Oh
is
my
just like
goodness.
no matter what happens, he's
His
always at
way
the
out.
tail. He's just this kind of like this wraith that they can't get rid of, and it's just like, and the parents do come into the story at that point, and they actually there's a whole resolution with them and everything, so it all kind of goes full circle with like where the parents were, what they were doing, and where they went and stuff, and why they couldn't come back. So that it yeah, it does have a kind of like proper like denouement, but yeah, it would have been too much for one film. So that's the thing. So they kind of needed three films to do it. It was yeah, Olaf was a piece of work basically, and he has an accomplice and an assistant, and the people the people in the beginning that kind of like his cronies, his actor comrades, they have more of a role to play as it goes on, and he has like a kind of like yes, a Harley Quinn to his Joker sense. He's his female accomplice that he kind of trusts, that kind of betrays him but doesn't, and then goes. It's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes me think even more of Wacky Races. When he was
Yeah.
describing all the stuff that was going, I was like, this is mad. Like they wanted to do a sequel, but but they never got it, and they said they got the series.
Mm.
But I don't know if you know, Ben, but like obviously the guy who did Count Olaf in the series, he was very dedicated. He really wanted to do the role.
Mm-hmm.
But two things that kind of strike me: why did he tattoo the eye on his ankle? And after finishing the series, did he just get it lasered off? Like,
Oh, did you
what
remove
did he
it?
do?
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I didn't realize you did it for real. I thought it was just a temporary tattoo. That's dedication. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna do.
He actually got it permanently, like, tattooed on his ankle. I was just like,
Wow.
yeah, like, so I think the first season it was mainly makeup and like temporary stuff, but then I guess for whatever reason he was just like, nah, this is. I don't know why he chose to do that, but yeah, like I think by the end of season 1 or something like that, he got it permanently tattooed. So
Wow.
Wow.
I was
Well,
like,
I mean,
dedicated.
he could afford to get it lasered off.
Yeah.
And the black ink is like one of the easier ones to fade out. So,
Yeah, and it's small as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
I just
especially
kept it as a memento for the film. If he had, or the series, if I had a good time on it, it'd be a good like memento. If he like had an awful experience, then I'd understand and get rid of it.
true. Plus, if you have lighter skin, it's gonna be easier to laser off. Because the one of the main reasons I didn't, it wasn't the only reason, but one of the reasons I like had a tattoo anyway, and I was gonna get a tattoo of Black Feather on my wrist, but instead of putting it anywhere else, I covered up this other tattoo I had. But if I had chosen to laser it, it was like an 80% chance it basically would have looked like this, like my hand color, but on my
Oh,
wrist.
because it's so much lighter. I see. It's kind of I know what you mean. Jeez.
Yeah, most of the time the melanin does not come back, like
Wow.
it just stays like that.
Because it's like scar tissue, isn't it? Because scar tissue is so much lighter.
That's
Yeah,
actually a cool idea. Like, do it on purpose and, like, do the laser in, like, a design. It's like a reverse tattoo. Yeah.
you could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could make it look like a kind of like a glow behind.
it's true. I didn't want it to stick out, so
Yeah.
but I did think about that. Huh,
I'm surprised it
it,
works like that because the whole thing with the laser is it breaks up the ink and then it sort of passes through your sort of like immune system, doesn't it? So I'm surprised it works. Like, yeah, I would have thought it just kind of like goes through or doesn't work at all.
yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, there's videos on this. I won't get into like the science of like how tattoos work and tattoo ink and how it like stays after it heals and whatnot. But yeah, it's basically just burning all of the cells that have basically been told to keep every time it heals to heal with this ink color basically.
Mm.
And black is the like easiest for the skin to keep doing without fading too much. And yeah, it just burns all of those cells so that all you're left with is the cells that actually will regenerate in the same way the rest of your skin does.
Right.
But it's a bit too deep for most of the time for the melanin to come back properly, kind of in the way like with burn victims.
Mm.
It's just a bit too deep that the skin's just like, I don't know. This is all I remember. Yeah. Sorry, you could do favorite scenes again.
Everyone else still thinking of theirs.
I'm struggling, if I'm honest.
Yeah, least favorite scene.
Probably favorite scene. Yeah, struggling.
Oh no, least favorite.
I'll probably pick a least favorite scene.
Oh, we
No,
don't
I
have
don't
time
even
for
have a least favorite. I think I'm just like meh. It was just like a meh film for me. I didn't like. I probably piggyback off of Rob and Ben's one of the car, because maybe that was like time where I felt like maybe I got a sense of it followed through what I was expecting of the characters in that moment. And obviously the intensity of the train coming, but
There
yeah,
was a
apart from that,
moment
it's
though.
just
So that bit where she has like the spring from the seat and she kind of pulls it back and then it goes and like wraps around the sign. I did hear you behind me go, "Oh, come on."
yeah. I mean, this is like I said, that scene with me saying it's a favourite is probably pushing it. There wasn't one that stood out. If there was one, if I had to pick something, that would be it. Yeah.
That is fair enough. I'm also having trouble finding a favourite scene, but not derogatorily.
I don't know if
I'll
it was
just-
me mishearing or like you lagging a bit, but even that you said a bit like Olaf. Derogatory.
Oh, really?
For everyone's surprise, having trouble.
Honestly, man, like it was such a a wave of clarity. Like as soon as he said surprise, I was like, oh.
I'm so surprised that was such a moment of clarity, considering I don't remember ever saying.
So surprised, you could say.
That pronunciation of surprise sounds like it makes me think of Frasier. Did anybody watch Frasier? Because he would say "quelle surprise," the French, like what a surprise.
I used to love Frasier because it always used to be on Channel 4 after The Simpsons. So I kind of I ended up watching a lot of it just like kind of through osmosis.
Oh, nice.
I was going to say my favourite was the train one as well, but I'll have to pivot from that. Too many people. I'd say like the stuff with Montgomery. I think it's purely down to the fact that I like the person playing him, but
he was wonderful.
Yeah, it was, especially when they're trying to sort of get through to him, like the person that he's let in the house isn't who he seems, and he's like, yeah, I know he's like trying to scupper my plans. I can't remember the exact line because I watched it on Monday, I think, but like he was watching him, but for a completely different reason that the kids were. I found that quite funny.
He wants the python's venom or something. What was it? He wanted.
Yeah.
What was
he's
it called?
a spy for the blah 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 society. He wants
Yeah.
to get Thingy's venom and take away. I forgot what he calls the deadly python, like pet name.
Incredibly deadly viper.
Yeah, the incredibly deadly viper. Yes, who could forget? Yes, we all do. But yeah, that's what he was all worried about. That's what's so funny about it. It's just like he didn't really care about anything else apart from the viper being like being compromised, and the secret being like. But yeah,
I feel like it doesn't happen as much, but like when you have films like this or kind of shows or whatnot that have the trope of it's not being understood, sometimes I rather the kind of Montgomery version where it achieves the same purpose. He just doesn't actually truly understand what they actually mean, rather than the adults just straight up not even giving them the time of day, or doing what I think the worst moment, but it still made me laugh because I don't know, it's like very theatrical and pantomime, but when he's in a sailor outfit and doing the most cringeous flirtation scenes. Oh my goodness. I forgot how cringe that was.
I found him quite sexy there, to be honest. He said about grandma being the greatest joy in the world, and I was like,
if it was someone else, maybe.
No.
But it was him. I'm just like, this guy. Anyway, when the kids are just like, he's Count Olaf, blah blah, and then Meryl Streep is like, where? And then Olaf's just like, yeah, where? It's just like, what is going on? How are you this dumb? Like, what you mean where?
No,
Anyway,
we've broken a manual.
but yeah, that did make me laugh.
I dead ass cannot think of it.
Hmm?
I dead ass cannot think of a favourite scene. I just love all of it.
Any that you have, I don't know, are kind of special to you that stay with you, but like stick out more than others, maybe.
It's him fucking about and doing like the dinosaur thing because it I just know that it's part of like a longer scene where like he's doing like an elaborate like time travel dance and oh god. Let's go back to prehistoric times when dinosaurs ruled the earth. And he's going like, time machine, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And like, it's fucking hilarious. I don't know why they didn't keep it in. But every time I see it, I'm just like, oh, God, you're seeing such a small little bit. But then in the blooper of it, him doing it, everyone's laughing. Like, he's like snapping at their ears. They keep going like... No, like he sort of like disappears and he goes behind the couch and he just kind of like resurfaces and licks someone's ear and it just goes, and like, it just makes me die. I just really enjoy that.
Yeah, why didn't they? Because if they kept some of it, then why not keep all of it? Yeah.
It's
And was
so
that
good.
Bill Connolly's character or?
No, that's Jim
Hold off.
Carrey. But like
Jim Carrey.
Before
does
the
the
pasta
commute
scene.
and then like nothing. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Did they have
none
to
of
cut
them.
it out because his colleagues were breaking character because they were cracking up?
They might have, yeah, that might have been it. But like, even so, just like because like the the bit where they say cut, he like gets somebody goes, no, you're just ignoring me, and then you hear the guy go cut, and I'm just like, oh, that's probably gonna be it, isn't it? Just...
Yeah, maybe they thought it was a bit too much. It sounds funny though. But, yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'll link the. I did actually have to find it when I was doing it, so I'll just forward that on.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the director tried to keep it like this and really pay tribute to, or tried to keep it close to not just the books, but also what Tim Burton imagined it. Because Tim Burton did imagine it as a more gothic style, compared to what the director might have initially thought to do. So I'm glad he was just like, you know what, yeah, I'll stay true to that in the books to really determine what it's gonna look like. Yeah. Nice. Was that all of them? Oh, are we missing any?
I think that was everyone.
Thanks, Alec.
Yeah, it's good.
Enjoy that.
So, actually, Ben, you say it.
Oh, right, yeah. Corey, what is your film? What is the next week's movie?
You say it good, you motherfucker.
I did that.
You did. You missed it.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, you might as well say it
Yeah.
She just did that.
You
Yeah.
bastards.
It's good. Yeah.
Go on, Ben, you say it. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. What is your legendary film story? Sorry. Just
All right.
You've currently
Yeah.
got
So,
like you're currently riding a high here. Okay, you currently got. Hang on. You're on a 9.1 average with one film, so this is very important.
yeah, I set a very high bar for myself. And yeah, my next pick is quite different from what I picked last. I'm not expecting it to be so high a score with everybody. But I know it just like I picked it because oh no, I'll explain more next week. But what I picked was Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh.
Yeah. I
Oh.
thought we'd kick this off with To the Spooky Season, the first one. It just like really, really blew me away. It's just I'll never forget it, and so I just want to see what everybody else thinks.
Another one marked off the list.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
was gonna
interesting because there's a film out this week with Adam Pearson in, and that's the only other film I know of that he's been in.
Oh.
Oh, I probably recognize his face, but I'm not very good with most names. So.
He's the
I
guy
imagine
with
you
like the
probably-
really. I don't know what. I'll show you who he is. You'll recognize him.
Okay.
You'll kind of cringe internally when you go. I think I'll recognize his face.
Oh, I think now I
Yeah.
know who you guys are talking about.
Yeah, him.
Under the Skin I Live in.
Yeah, not that one.
No.
But yeah, no, he's
Well,
he's in a film that's out this week, and it looks really interesting. So this is quite good timing to pick another film with him.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So I know Spooky's not for everybody. I'm glad that we're coming off of just like some light movies because you're going down for a little bit.
Eb's gonna be so pissed off. She hates this one.
Oh
Oh,
no.
really?
Really?
I tried to show her it. She was just like, "Oh, there anymore." I can't say anymore. I think it's brilliant.
It's just like I know not everybody will like it, but like I think it's like almost inarguable. It's just like so extreme. Like it's just so impactful. So it's just like unfortunately, yeah, I'm sorry for people. Rachel, I think I know you're not a huge spooky person. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Season, can't wait. No joking, I'm fine.
I'm hoping like I think there's something for everybody to get away from it, take away from it. Like there is some like it's like very complex to me. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. And I'll post in the chat where you guys can all watch it.
Nice.
Wait,
Yeah, it was on my list of films to watch, but I just never got around to it. Like when it first came out, I was like, "Oh, I want to watch this," but just never got around. So yeah.
it was on my list, but I probably wasn't getting around to it for about 10 years. So.
Yeah, that
Pat's list
happens.
is like 100 films now.
My list just keeps getting bigger, even though I keep watching stuff up off it. I add more than I watch. So
This is the thing. The more you go down the just rabbit hole of anything, the more you realize there is. And then in my case, in many people's cases, I'll be watching lots of stuff and then I'll be like, oh, this is great Brazil thingy. And then, oh wait, but this is other great one in this French film. And then there's this other great thing in like in Japan. And then there's other and it's just like this it just goes on forever. And you're just like, you know what? It just means I have stuff to always watch. Okay, cool. I'll never finish my list, but I always have something to watch, so it's okay.
yeah.
It's like our gaming list, isn't it, Emmanuel?
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh, man.
YouTube.
Oh man. On that note, I have started playing Diablo 4. Since
I played a little bit of it.